have a mic out there? It's like oh yeah, we totally could. But that's like but yeah. Just or that's me. I'll send it to him and we're gonna tell him to stop.
Testing, hello. Okay, it's good now. The Senate will be in order. For the purposes of announcements, does any individual seek recognition? Attorney General Mullins, you're recognized.
All right. Hey, everyone. So 3 things here. One, the FERPA presentation that was going to be today has been pushed to next week, pending approval from attorneys Daniel and Farrell. Second, the office printer is for office use. It is not for political things. It is not for personal things. It is not for your schoolwork. It is not for any sort of advocacy stuff. It is for office stuff. So please do not use it incorrectly or improperly. Big no-no. Third, so, big weekend coming up, as everyone is aware. I feel it is my duty to let everyone know that the Dean of Students office is planning on cracking down this year harder than usual, both on the guest policy and on actual stuff happening at the townhouses. So please be careful, especially if you have a conduct history. It could be very, very severe. So please be careful. If you have any issues with conduct, and if your friends do, please come to Conduct Advising. We can help you out. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, thanks. Does any other individual seek recognition? Chair Kim, you're recognized.
All right, this is coming in from the Elections Chancellor. Hi, everybody. Voting for the election will open on Monday, March 9th at 5 p.m. and close on Thursday, March 12th, also at 5 p.m. The Elections Commission has received a lot of questions about campaign finance and would like to clarify that candidates are allocated money through businesses such as the SORC or the Student Union Craft Center, which is downstairs. Both of them are downstairs in this building, where they can spend their resources on where they can spend their funds on resources for their campaign. If you have any questions, please reach out to sgaelections@umass.edu. Thank you, the Elections Commission. And to clarify, senators are given $25 for their campaign, and you can make joint campaign materials with somebody else, but you're not allowed to give your money to other campaigns. President and trustee get $200 and $250 respectively. And yes, if you have any questions about that, again, just Elections Commission, they're very responsive. Send an email their way. Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten mixed messages from the SORC about printing.
The question was, Noah Siegel has received mixed messages from the SORC about printing. I would forward any communications you have from them in writing to the Elections Commission. I don't know why that would be the case, but yeah, just communicate with them and they'll do everything they can to help you get, figured out. No other questions. Great. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, bring it over. Thank you. Secretary Laquier.
So Great news. The Student Sustainability Innovation Fund is live as of today. So applications are going to be open until March 27th. There's a few different categories you can apply for. There's like a individual seed project where you can get up to $2,000 to start a smaller project on campus. This is if you have something like a permaculture garden where you just need like some wood, some fertilizer, call it a day, and you'll be done. There's individual projects. I don't actually know why they threw that in there, but that's up to $5,000 for your project. If you have something more intensive, if you need more expensive equipment, you can get up to that amount. And if you're applying on behalf of a group, such as an RSO or a club that you formed, you can get up to $7,500 to do your work. Additionally, you are allowed to pay yourself over the summer to do this. The thought is that not everyone can be expected to take time off work to come out to Amherst to just kind of do stuff for the love of the game. So you can pay yourself $15 an hour for 10 hours. I believe it's 12 weeks over the course of the summer. So you can include that as kind of like a research internship opportunity if you so choose. Questions about the application process, direct them to me. I will send everyone a link to the page. It's on the School of Earth and Sustainability where the application is. Please send it around. If you have any ideas, feel free to apply. Please tell any groups or people you may know that might be interested in this. It's super awesome and it's super important that we get a lot of high quality applications so that this program continues. As of now, it's going to be $25,000 forever. That's allocated every year for projects such as this. So as long as we have a good kickoff, some good successful projects, there's no reason to think that won't continue.
Are there any questions? Chair Kim?
One, congratulations. Two, who's funding this?
It's so the Coke, they have a contract with the school, and they give $50,000 back to us every year to support zero waste initiatives. So it's half of that pot that's now just available.
Yeah, Chair Hood.
Will you be sending a campus relay out to all RSOs? If you haven't yet, do you want help doing that? Or
I'd love help doing that.
all right, I'll reach out to you once my Wi-Fi starts working.
Awesome.
Any further questions? All right. Thank you. Yeah, Vice President Nalivo and Secretary Stanley, go ahead.
Okay, everybody get excited because on April 8th, Ryan Bamford is going to come here and give a budget presentation and also talk about potential future renovations to McGurk. As some of you know, I'm sure that this has been being talked about, and he has a very helpful presentation to accompany it. So on April 8th, he will be here to answer questions and hopefully alleviate any confusion or I don't know. He's going to be here April 8th.
Would you mind clarifying who Ryan Bamford is?
Ryan Bamford is the athletic director here at UMass. I understand that he's a contentious figure, which is why we're announcing it right now, so that you can think of your questions. And then maybe we'll have a refresher on how to respectfully ask questions to our individuals who come to our Senate as guests. Yes!
Thank you. Are there any questions about that? Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead. Can we get a microphone back there, please?
This is probably a question for PR. Can we get some type of flyer or something, so folks that are constituents know that the athletic director will be here and they can come out and ask their questions?
Sure.
Yeah, can we pass the mic up to Secretary Butasova?
Yes.
All right, cool. Thank you. Awesome. Any more questions? All right, thank you. Any further announcements? Yes, in the back, you're recognized. If you wouldn't mind stating your name for the record.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia McClurkin. I am part of MassPerg. I am here today to let you guys know about some lobby day opportunities we have coming up fairly soon. We have a lobby day for our Hunger Free Campus Initiative. It is on March 12th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Massachusetts State House. If you are interested, the last day to RSVP is tonight. Any questions, you can feel free to ask me. My email is omccclurken@umass.edu. There is no need to have prior experience in lobbying, as we will be having a training on the day of and days before online. Additionally, I am the campaign coordinator for our Save the Whales campaign. On March 31st, which is a Tuesday, from 9 to 5 p.m. at the Massachusetts State House, Environment Massachusetts, the New England Aquarium, MassPerg students, Surfrider Massachusetts, Healthy Ocean Coalition, and Conservation Law Foundation are partnering to host Massachusetts Oceans Day 2026. This is a lobby day to discuss biodiversity, plastic pollution, coastal resilience in the blue economy. There will be plenty of experts there, state advocates, students, scientists, and more from across Massachusetts to help you figure out, people here who may not have lobbied before or may have experience, how to lobby and what the experience is like. The links to register for both of these lobby days are in last meeting's minute notes. If you do need them, feel free to send me an email. And thank you all for your time. And I look forward to hopefully seeing some people at our lobby days. Thank you. Any questions? Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further announcements? Senator Morales-Aquino?
Hi. Okay. I hope you guys are all well. This is a reminder that Social Justice and Empowerment Committee will be hosting an event at the Black Box Theater on March 9th, which is next Monday, where a space is made for students to talk about their experience regarding ICE. We would love for anyone who can make it to join, but if you can't, please repost the flyer. I don't know if it's posted right now, but repost the flyer when posted on your social medias. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further announcements? All right. If not, the Associate Speaker will record the starting roll call.
Senator Bauman. Senator Bauman, absent. Senator Baker. Senator Baker, absent. Senator Belair. Senator Belair, present. Senator Breen. Senator Breen, present. Senator Calvo. Senator Calvo, present. Senator Chamo. Senator Chamo, present. Senator Chaparro. Senator Chaparro, present. Senator DeRiggi. Senator DeRiggi, present. Senator Dang. Senator Dang, present. Senator Haycock. Senator Haycock, present. Senator Ercole-Espinal. Senator Ercole-Espinal, present. Chair Hood. Chair Hood, present. Senator Kennedy. Senator Kennedy, present. Chair Kim. Chair Kim, present. Senator Lamore. Senator Lamore, present. Senator Malari. Malari, absent. Senator Martos. Senator Martos, absent. Senator Meesom. Senator Meesom, present. Chair Mello. Chair Mello, present. Senator Morales-Aquino. Senator Morales-Aquino, present. Senator Nalivo. Senator Nalivo, present. Chair Mieka. Chair Mieka, absent. Senator Mesh Patel. Senator Mesh Patel, absent. Senator Rahi Patel. Senator Rahi Patel, present. Senator Reeb. Senator Reeb, present. Senator Rogers. Senator Rogers, present. Senator Roy. Senator Roy, absent. Senator Schuette. Senator Schuette, present. Senator Siegel. Senator Siegel, present. Senator Sun. Senator Sun, absent. Chair Seversky. Chair Seversky, present. Senator Tacky. Senator Tacky, present. Senator Senator Tick. Senator Tick present. Chair Trong. Chair Trong present. Senator Volotka. Senator Volotka present. Senator Valencia Gallego. Senator Valencia Gallego present. Senator Vender Wilson. Senator Vender Wilson present. Senator Verma. Senator Verma present. Senator Walker Hoover. Senator Walker Hoover present. Senator Wu. Senator Wu present. Senator Golu. Senator Golu present with 35 voting members. A quorum is present.
Thank you. The minutes from the last Senate meeting were sent out 48 hours prior. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Senator Tackey?
I'd like to add an addendum to last meeting's minutes, that just being the email sent by Secretary Carroll to the National Pan-Hellenic Council after the meeting. And I believe it's already been sent to you.
Yeah, we'll pull that up. So it's an addendum to the minutes. That's it. Is that the correct addendum?
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion on the floor to amend the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
All right. The question is on the adoption of the motion to amend the minutes from the last meeting to add on an addendum about this email. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstain say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Are there any further corrections? Vice President Olivo?
I'd also like to add my addendum to the minutes.
Is this one?
Yes, that looks correct. Everything under the bolded part.
All right, perfect. We're gonna. Both items will be added underneath the minutes as addendums, so at the bottom of the document. And that'll be, yeah, we'll do that after the meeting. Is there a motion on the floor to amend the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to amend the minutes from last meeting.
The question is on the adoption of the motion to amend the minutes of the last Senate meeting to reflect this addendum at the bottom. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstain say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Are there any other corrections to the minutes? All right. There being no further corrections to the minutes, the motion is called and the question is on the approval of the minutes as amended of the last Senate meeting. Those in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting say aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstain say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The minutes stand approved. Moving on, Committee of the Whole will be called into session, and the Senate will stand in recess to discuss Wi-Fi. Pursuant to Title II, Chapter 31, Section 9, subsections 1 and 5, when Committee of the Whole is called into session, parliamentary procedure is suspended, and the Senate may not take any official votes or actions. I'll now invite up Chair Mello, Senator Golu, to give a presentation about Wi-Fi.
Okay, hey guys. So we want to talk a little bit about Wi-Fi. So first of all, could you get a raise of hands for anyone who's ever had issues with Wi-Fi while at UMass? Okay, great. So current policy from IT, by the way, is that Wi-Fi here is perfect. There are no issues. It's better than average at most universities, and it's great. So yeah, what? I can't really say it, but I would say that it is something that I think is an issue. Okay, Cody, next slide. So yeah, do we have Wi-Fi issues? I think consensus is yes, to some extent at the very least. What is their impact? So stuff we've heard so far from students is when you're at a football game or a hockey game, you can't find where your friends are because your phone has no service. When you're in classes, maybe your attendance isn't going through with Top Hat or iClicker on the app. When you're trying to do your homework in your dorm, your Wi-Fi is just not working. When you're trying to watch a movie with your friends, can't do that. So a lot of issues, lots of different things. So we are trying to improve it. Currently, what UMass is doing to improve it is really nothing, but we are trying to change that. Okay. So what goes into Wi-Fi? So first of all, it's just like where you are. So where you are on campus. So obviously there's more Wi-Fi like hotspots towards areas where people are more concentrated. So center of campus right here, your Wi-Fi should be pretty strong. If you're going to a hockey game or a football game, you're kind of toward the edge of campus. So that is one factor over there. If you're further away from where the centers of Wi-Fi are, you might have a lesser connection to it. When it is, so the more people around you or like the more concentrated an area is and like what people are doing there can really affect it. So if it's in the middle of the day in like a dining hall, there's a lot of people probably around you. If it's in the middle of the night, maybe not as many people are on their devices. So that's how many devices are around you, what's going on. For instance, in classes, people may be on their phones and on their computers at the same time. If you're in a building with large lecture halls, it means if every single person is on 2 devices, that's obviously a lot going on. Okay. Oh. Thank you, Cody. Okay, so now I just want to talk quickly about speed testing. So basically, one thing that you can use to test how strong your Wi-Fi is by seeing how your computer is responding. So this is a speed test by Ookla, which is used by UMass IT, recommended also by Deaden in his free time. This is an example of when I used it last week while sitting in the SGA office in the middle of the day. So there was a lot of people around me, but my connection was still very strong. However, other times, and it's not up here, but you may be at a Woo bus stop after a Senate meeting a couple weeks ago, and your Wi-Fi strength is 2, which is horrible. It should never be below 30 for any reason at UMass, and it often is. So that's something we're trying to fix.
When you look into like internet speeds and like universities, and R1 research university in United States should never go under 100 megabits of download, but it's like always under 100. Student union's pretty good. You get these kind of results. So when you're talking to IT and they're in the student union, you can't show that the internet's bad because it's only good here. But I live in Orchard Hill. I was watching a movie before coming here, couldn't watch it, had to use my cellular data. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, so we're not looking for you guys to fill this out just yet. This will be later, but Deaden, because he's a nerd, basically coded a site where you can basically scan a QR code and do a Wi-Fi test. It'll take your location from where you are. It's not this one. Go to the next page. That should work. But basically, whole site coded and should automatically go into a database so we can see kind of what results are. So something we're talking about using for the future. We're trying to collaborate with IT. But yeah, does anyone have like any major concerns about Wi-Fi or any like other things we should be considering? Yes.
So like not a major concern, but I just scanned that QR code and it says it's broken. So yeah.
Yeah. The Wi-Fi the domain for this was just updated also. So that might be part of it. Because this is an older version of the presentation. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you guys.
Thanks. I believe we have one more presentation. Chair Trong will be talking about the SATF fee ballot measure again. So give it up for Chair Trong.
All right, you guys are probably wondering why I'm giving another presentation about the ballot, considering we gave one like 2 weeks ago, but I will explain why, and it's actually really important. So if everybody could close their laptops, get off their phones, no Roblox, no Minecraft, no whatever you guys are doing up in Senate. All right, or Subway Surfers, or Reels, or TikTok. Okay. All right, next slide. So some clarifications. Yesterday I had a large budget training with about 240 RSOs. Some questions. Some questions that were asked and some questions that were had that some of your constituents may be asking you is, for example, like for our budgeting process, why is our budgeting process and purchase process not merged? The reason is because we've tried to do that with Campus Pulse, and given the lovely software limitations and the time constraints, we were not able to implement that. And so that will be merged over the next couple of years with a new software. Not sure if you heard, but Campus Pulse has gone bankrupt. So that's lovely, lovely fun fact. Another thing, why can't RSOs apply for funding between like March and October over the summer? The reason for that is my term ends in May. And so there'll be a lovely new chair transitioning into the Ways and Means Committee. And that would be very difficult to find committee members as well to vote. And then a lot of questions about why we are transitioning to this ad hoc funding model. So the old process was not flexible because you have to plan for everything 1 year in advance. When e-boards usually transition over 1 to 2 years, they're usually just left working with whatever the previous e-board planned for, and that's not super flexible for them. A lot of bottlenecking for Source and SGA. So Source advisors would have to review all the requests for the entire year within 1 to 2 months. And so for Source, that was a lot of work for them to be doing on the advisors as well. And then on the SGA side for Ways and Means, we'd have to review over like 270 budget requests for the entire, like within the spring semester. And that was over, I think, close to like 7,000 like individual line items that we have to individually check. And so that bottleneck was just not sustainable. And the last point, some RSOs figured out that if they overinflate their budget, they would get more money after across the board cuts. And this led to a very vicious cycle because people would keep overinflating their budget. We'd have higher cuts, and then there'd be more overinflation. Also, inflation as a whole. Yeah, so this is similar from last time. You can see here about 52% of RSOs requested under that $15,000 amount. And so when we were designing this new budgeting process, which people are probably going to have questions about and ask you guys about, that is why we upped it from the $15,000 cap, which we were originally planning to do, to the $30,000 budget request cap on the next slide. And so on the next slide here, you can see that we were able to support with this new funding system about 74% of RSOs. And again, this is using the budget request data from last year. And so some of these numbers may be inflated, underinflated, accurate. And so this is the best data that we are currently working on. This is also, can we go back? This is also a great example of why our old funding system doesn't necessarily work. As you can see, we have a good amount, 75 RSOs who request like a lot of money. Not to say that they don't need the money, but when we have finite amount of resources, it may not be necessarily equitable for one RSO to be taking a substantial amount of the SATF. So on the next slide, we have our top 15 requesters. No RSO names here, but you can just, to give you a ballpark, this is how much our top 15 RSOs have requested last year for this year. They didn't get this much because of the across the board cuts, but yeah. Okay. Okay, so with the ballot, some questions. How often is the SATF typically raised? It's usually every 2 to 3 years to keep up with inflation. That's 7.5%. We raised it last year to offset, again, that projected $500,000 deficit. And so that's why we raised it last year. Why doesn't the SGA raise it again or more without putting it on the ballot? We are by law required. So we have to put on the ballot anything above 7.5%. And then, so this spring, we raised it by $10.50 per semester. That will kick in next year. As you guys are all aware, you were here, you voted on it. Main reasons behind that were inflation. We're still behind compared to the FY19 2019 fee, so we're still behind on inflation even after that fee increase. Mandatory salaries, like I said, increased by about $300,000, and then the new agency funding model as well, which is lovely because we can have better supported agencies, which can then support students directly through those like employment opportunities, or supporting students like through SLSO, and as well as supporting RSOs and RSOs through like UMass, EMS, and Source, et cetera. And then also another thing that was not originally counted for was this mandatory administrative overhead costs, which has increased from last year from about 323 to about 480. And so that percentage, it's about 8.75% that we have to account for like every single like allocations. And there's an additional like fee, which I will talk about if you go to the next slide. And so because of all these increases and expenses that we have to account for, the number that's been put on the ballot has changed from last time. I believe last time it was 18, 25, and 30. And so the numbers on the ballot have been changed. Obviously, there's the 25, 36, and then the 44 per semester. And you can see all the impacts of each ballot. Again, my job is not to advocate for any of the options. My job is to give you guys, SGA, the public, the data to go vote. And so voting matters. What passes or doesn't pass matters. And all of these have, I guess, consequences. And then I'll yield for questions, and then I'll go to the ballot language that we have that's going up. Can we get a mic?
Could we go back to the slide with the first set of bar chart or bar graphs? One more. I think some of the numbers are slightly off.
In terms of like how many?
Like first column, it says 67, but it's about like 80.
Oh, yeah, that may have been a miscalculation in terms of that. But so ignore the numbers. The numbers are the same as last time, but that's like a general ballpark in terms of the percentage up there is still correct in terms of how many RSOs are requesting under the 15,000. So yeah.
Do we know if the numbers like represented on the bar are accurate, or the numbers like at the bottom? Or which ones like can we talk about?
I believe it should be these numbers should be accurate. So I believe these ones may be incorrect. And so I can update that after to reflect that.
Does the spring concert like have to be funded at $250,000, or how does that work? Who makes that final decision? Is that like you're just saying we have that money available? Like, is that mandatory for spring concert or what?
Yeah, so there is nothing requiring the SGA to fund spring concert. What we have done for the past, like as far back as I can remember or can see in our records, is you have the UPC operating budget, and that includes stuff for like the student payroll, and then for the like smaller events like fall or like the campfire events. And then you have their like director salary and stuff. That's like the mandatory stuff. And then spring concert is typically requested as a separate line item. And so that's treated kind of like a separate process, if you will, in terms of like how we review it. And so like that's why like last year for spring concert we were able to like it was cut to a different percentage than for like RSOs or for agencies, because it has that different process. And so there is nothing requiring us to fund spring concert. So in theory we could put all of the money from spring concert towards RSOs. I think that's a conversation that we can have in Senate. Ultimately, like at the end of the day, I would propose the suggested S1 allocation. That would go to Ways and Means. They would approve it, and then it would go up to Senate for the final say for approval or amendments. And so what I can say is I'm meeting with the agency directors tomorrow to discuss the ballot stuff. And then depending on how that goes, and potentially meeting with UPC and the ballot results, that could determine whether or not we fund spring concert at 250 or at all. So.
Yeah, can whoever's on the slides go like a couple of one more, that one. So I'm seeing the top 15 requesters, and there's no context, right? But I'm wondering, what types of events are these are these organizations holding? And then how much of the money that they requested, how much do they spend? And then additionally, I'm also wondering if we could have something like this for agencies, how much are they requesting? And then, how much are they spending? Because I know like some of these organizations are really doing stuff on campus. Like they're holding events that bring the UMass community together in mass. You know, like Soul Fest is a good example. You know, week of events. You know, they've got the cookout, etc. So could you just talk to me about some more context with these top 15 requesters, and then if there's going to be something like this for agencies?
Yeah, happy to clarify. So the reason why this is here for the RSOs is because the RSOs are going to be the most impacted by depending on what happens on the ballot. With the new agency funding, because agencies are distinctly different from RSOs and they have that different process, they have different mission statements, they're funded completely differently, and they have that different funding model. I believe in one of my past presentations, we have the agency utilization rates from last year. However, if you're interested in how much they've requested previously, I can also compile that data and get that to you. And so I give a brief synopsis in terms of like the types of RSOs. There's a couple that do like recreation. There's a couple that do service and like a lot of cultural events. And then there's some that does like a lot of travel. Obviously, travel is a very large expense. And so this isn't necessary to like take a jab at them. This is just saying like, out of our whole RSO allocation pool, we do have a finite amount of resources. And I think it's worth having those conversations. Like, can we support this amount of requests through the SATF? Because what I can say is from benchmarking with peer institutions, even with this $30,000 cap, it is well above all of our peer institutions for how much student orgs can get. And that's not to say that we shouldn't be funding student orgs, because I believe we should be, because they provide a valuable experience for students on campus. But given the amount of resources that we have, I think if potentially in the future, if we wanted to increase the cap in the future, and that's again the decision for future leadership down the line, that would require us to increase the fee. And so these are definitely conversations I think we should be having. And I'm also working on other things to help like reduce costs as well. And so if any of that interests you guys, I was going to mention this in my report out, but if any of you guys are interested in helping to like reduce costs or with admin transparency, please reach out, because these are stuff that I am working on. Myself, the committee, the financial policy reform subcommittee, and we really need all the help we can get. So,
and just, I mean, a follow up, because that was a brilliant answer. Can we get like names of the RSO? I mean, is that like a confidentiality thing? Like, I just really want to know, like, why do you need $330,000? Like, what are you spending the money with? Like, just something that I'm really interested in.
The reason they're not included on here is because I didn't want to like shame like any specific like RSO or like, I guess, put them on blast, because this is going out like to the public. But technically, all financial records are public. So if you PR request it, I will send that over to who's requesting what. So to answer your question,
I don't think it's shame. I mean, but that's just me. But thank you.
By that point of clarification, I guess, would we be able to request it right now? Not to be messy, but like genuinely.
It'd probably be best just send the request through the associate speaker. You'll have the records emailed to you directly.
Okay.
From there, you can do what you want with it, but
Fair.
Not to hijack Darren's presentation, but just a little bit of context for anyone who might be new to the SGA process. There was kind of a bit of a loophole, I guess, that Darren really patched, where you could just not really submit the budget that you needed and then show up and do an emergency funding request and just kind of get any amount of money you really wanted. And that was not subject to across the board cuts. I'm paraphrasing heavily, but that was kind of the path that a lot of groups followed. And we would sometimes see groups come back 5-6 years in a row doing an emergency funding request for the same event that they went to every year. There was one group in particular who I know is on this list of the top 15 requesters that requested, it was around $40,000 to send 20 people to Ohio. And at the time, everyone who was voting on this like Googled flight prices to Ohio, and they were like $300 a pop. And they were like, what in the world? Are you guys taking a private jet? What's going on? But basically because of, shoot, Darren, help me out. What's the term for it? That like you have to not, viewpoint neutrality, which the training I promise I went to, basically because of that, we were not allowed to like Google and ask questions about how they came up with those prices. So we just had to approve it and send it through. So that to myself and a lot of others in the SGA kind of alluded to the fact that like, yeah, these groups are doing great things. It is objectively awesome that this group has this event that they're attending in Ohio, but the amount that they're requesting doesn't line up with what they're saying they're doing. And then when you look at requests for some of these groups that are over $300,000, what in the world could you possibly be spending that on? So it just kind of comes back to this point of we believe people are gaming the system, requesting more than they need in order so that after the across the board cuts, they get the amount they really desired. And this fix is seeking to patch that.
Yeah, I guess to clarify, I've gone through the budgets, I've gone through the numbers quite extensively. I had to actually input all the across the board cuts manually over the summer, so that was lovely. But I'm not faulting like any of the RSOs or agencies. Like this is a completely an issue like on the SGA side that we have like allowed this process to go on for so long. But somewhere along the line, like we have to draw the line. This is kind of like where we are right now. If you go back to the ballot stuff.
I had a question about this. How does voting work for this? Like, is the top option voted just gonna be selected?
Yeah, so the way this works is A, B, or C combined need at least like the simple majority, like 50% 0.01 to pass. And then if that passes out of the three options, whichever one has the most will be approved.
Okay.
Okay, wait, is this working? Okay, yeah. This might be a dumb question, but this is on top of the increase we had this year, correct? So like the $44 one would like with our increase of however it was around 10, you said?
It was $10.50 per semester.
So it would be $54.50.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the option D, the no ballot, that is after we've already passed it through Senate. That would
Okay.
increase the fee.
Thank you.
Last question, I promise y'all. I remember when the folks came with the SGA like report that they did on us to like, you know, our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And they were saying that we had a weak judicial branch of our government. And I think that I'm interested in if that may have played a role in like these groups requesting so much money and kind of, you know, getting away with it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so to clarify, the judiciary branch isn't really involved with our budgeting process. And so with our old budgeting process, there's no cap on how much RSOs can request. So as long as they were able to like somewhat justify it, and again, there were multiple problems with last year's budgeting process and the guidelines, and we weren't really allowed to use like discretion based off criteria. And so all of those like factors combined really kind of, it was basically a freebie. If you knew how to game the system, you were able to game the system. But in terms of judiciary isn't really involved unless there's like a violation of like the bylaws. If there's a violation of the funding guidelines, like the Ways and Means Committee will make the necessary adjustments or actions.
But would those count as violation? I mean, requesting more than what you need to, I mean, as Secretary put it, to go on a trip to Ohio, that seems like, you know, serious violation of conduct.
Yeah, I mean, based off the information that was provided at the time in the funding model, like it was adherent to the funding model. And so that's why they were approved for it through the committee review. And then obviously at the end, we were not able to fund how much was requested. I believe initially it was requested about 7.8 million. And then after committee review, that's about 4.8. And then we were able to fund about 1.37. So not great. And then, yes.
Yeah, just as a point of clarification. So the judiciary can only rule on actions by any member or agency of the executive or legislative branches of the SGA to find if those violate anything set forth by the Constitution and bylaws of the SGA. So their jurisdiction technically wouldn't extend to RSOs. However, if the Ways and Means process was for any reason in violation of something set forth in the Constitution and bylaws, then that would fall into being their purview. If that.
And yeah, just to further clarify, I think Darren put it well when he said that it's more on us for creating the structure that allowed RSOs to exploit that system. That's what a lot of our financial reform has been centered around this year. So it was an issue on our end that we've worked to resolve.
And just one more, I mean, because we're doing constitutional reform, right, currently. Would that be something we should consider, having, judicial play more role in student groups and that sort of thing? Is that something, and then we could table this for constitutional reform, of course, but I'm just curious, what does the body think about that?
Yeah, I don't think currently we have anything in terms of constitutional reform that would include the judiciary for funding stuff. All of that, all the sort of like reforms we're doing to improve the accountability and transparency of our finances, that's just all done through our bylaws in Title VI and through the funding guidelines. As well as with collaboration with like Secretary of Finance, my executive counterpart, as well as like with Source and Cycle Finance to improve our communication, because there has been issues with that, and making sure all of our policies are consistent. That's something that we're really trying to do moving forward.
The sake of judiciary, at least in this case, is more for us rather than RSOs. So, I mean, just from what you're saying, I don't really see how judiciary would play much of an impact on an RSO when they technically don't have much jurisdiction over them. So.
All right. If there are no further questions, we're going to jump to the ballot language, and then we're going to wrap up with the. Oh,
no,
so sorry.
No, it's just point of clarification. I think Charles was more just saying, like, would there be a way to create some sort of system of accountability that we are writing into the bylaws, like essentially to like regulate any sort of conduct violation, even though I don't think that's even possible, like remotely possible right now. And as things stand, I don't even know that that's feasible, but I do see what he's saying in terms of there should be some way to have greater accountability within the process.
Yeah. I do agree that there probably is a way of doing that through judiciary in the Constitution. However, I don't think that would be the most effective use of judiciary, considering like Ways and Means has that authority to determine that. And it kind of gets iffy when we consider like how much funding an RSO needs without the caps, because then we're like evaluating the groups like Viewpoint, which like we can't really do because of viewpoint neutrality.
Yeah, so point of clarification on a few levels here. So first of all, there are existing processes to deal with this sort of issue. And any new processes involve a lot of legal analysis from SLSO. If you have any questions about this, you can talk to myself and Chair Hood. We're more than happy to talk it through. Also, we're saying conduct issues a lot here. Just want to be clear, code of conduct has nothing to do with this. Just want to be very clear about that.
Thank you. If there are any further questions, let's limit it to 2 more, just so we can keep it moving.
Motion to suspend the rules and recognize a non-member of the Senate.
There's no parliamentary procedure in committee of the whole, so yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. Hello. So I'm looking at the information from the previous slides, and it mentioned how there was a 49% cut across the board, and RSOs got a cut of 70%. But based on the information from this current slide, with the $330,000 budget allocated to like the top RSO, and then the previous issues discussed about mismanagement, or pardon, I should say, like a request for more funds than really needed. I guess exploitation is a word I would put. Is this, if that issue is taken care of, is the raise of this SATF fee needed in the first place? And have you done any like numbers on that by any chance?
Yeah, so all of these numbers are like the result of what happens if the ballot passes or not. And so if we can go back to the slide with the increases or the expenses. Yeah, this one. Thank you. Yeah, so first we have inflation. That's always going to increase, so we have to increase our SATF. The mandatory salary increases, so every single agency has like directors, like director of SLSO, director of UMass EMS, etc. We have to pay their director like salary, their fringe benefits, cost of living, etc. So that increased. And then on top of that, mandatory administrative overhead costs, that's increased as well, I believe from like around 7% to like about 8.75%, moving into like next year when we're budgeting for stuff. And then the last part in terms of like the agency and why it's like increased a lot is because our new agency funding model is, the idea is we're doing like level funding, I call it, in terms of supporting the agencies. And the principle behind that is if we are able to level fund our agencies, they can better support students in RSOs. So for example, there was an impact statement. I believe we mentioned it a couple presentations ago, but that was like a long time ago. And one of the potential like impacts of even the 40% cut, which comparison to RSOs may seem like a lot, was potentially like UMass EMS potentially like running out of money for payroll or for medical equipment. And if UMass EMS can't function, that means that every single large RSO, doesn't matter how much money we give RSOs, like they cannot function because they need UMass EMS at those events. It also affects stuff like SLSO because they help students directly with like if you're off campus for housing because we have a housing crisis, you may go to SLSO for consultation to make sure your tenants are up to date. Example would be like for Source, they help directly with RSOs whenever they purchase literally anything. And so when they get cut, that affects their hours, that affects the staff they have. For other agencies like the Daily Collegian or UVC TV, that may affect, for example, their operating hours, Student Union Art Gallery, not being able to repair like deferred equipment. And so that affects like their operations in terms of supporting students as well. And then in terms of like, I'm sorry, could you clarify the second part of your question?
Yeah. So if there's a lot of money being spent to RSOs or given to RSOs when they don't need it, if that money is not allocated to those RSOs because they don't really need it, can that like money be used to basically pay for all those issues rather than increasing the fee in the first place?
I think that's definitely a potential option. I guess one of the main concerns that we have is even with the $30,000 cap, if we assume that every RSO is like requesting like the max amount, and based off the current system, there would be a number that would be able to request the max amount, we would run out of money, I think, after under like 100 RSOs, like submitting the full request for 30,000 with the budget cuts. And so these, let me see, like the 25, can we go to the fee? Sorry, like switch around. Yeah. And so like the option C, which is $25 increase per semester, for example, that would give us the same amount of funding that we're giving to RSOs like right now. And so, yeah, in terms of like whether or not we need to increase it, ultimately at the end of the day, that's a decision that's up to you guys. That's a decision that's up to the students.
Secretary Stanley, do you have a question or point of clarification?
Point of clarification.
Yeah, okay.
Just point of clarification for the person who asked the question. Those numbers that you saw are not what was given to RSOs. It's what they requested. So they requested $330,000. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were given $330,000. That's what I believe Chair Trong said earlier.
Clarification or a question? Okay, go ahead.
Clarification. Also, you can't really answer. It's not really up to Ways and Means to say like an organization like needs the money. If they're applying for it, we just assume that they need it. So the part where you're asking like how are we combating that, like the combating frivolous spending is being done through the new cap. We've never capped how much RSOs can ask for before. So in this case, the new system has a cap of $30,000. That's like what's combating the frivolous spending, or whatever you'd call it.
Yeah, and to clarify, the caps is one aspect of it. There's multiple other aspects within the ad hoc funding guidelines, which are viewable for the public and for all RSOs to view. So for example, multiple line items, like for flights now, you have to show that they're economy class. We're not going to fund anything that's not economy class flights. For food, we're capping how much people can request for like catering. For gas, we're capping how much they can request like for gas. So for example, like we're reimbursing 70 cents per mile instead of like paying for the gas money because that like fluctuates. So there are a lot of details within the guidelines themselves and measures that we're instituting to make sure that any funding that is being given is absolutely needed by the RSO, and that it's in line with all of our peer institutions and with university and state law in terms of policies and fiscal responsibilities.
Attorney General Mullins, question or clarification?
Clarification. I would just like to note that we have office hours individually. Darren has office hours. I have office hours. If you have a question for the SGA that is not about Senate, it's a good time to bring them up in office hours. So reach out to us. We're happy to meet with anyone who has any questions.
Question or clarification? Okay, go ahead.
In benchmarking what other SGAs do, UMass Lowell, like maybe our closest peer, only gives out $1,800 per club's maximum per year. So just as an example of what other universities are doing.
Does anyone else have any clarification to make? All right. How many more questions are there still? Okay, last question then.
So my only final question is, we got this new system in place. It's set up, perfect world, it works. But what are we going to do if, and it might not even be us, it might just be the next, whoever's here. What's the fail safe if there's still this rampant shrinkage or, fraud going on? I don't want to say fraud, but like, what are we going to do if these funds are not being put to the proper use?
Yeah, in terms of requesting, next year we always have the option to either increase the percentage for the alternative funding requirements. We can adjust the caps as needed. We can adjust our funding guidelines every single year. In terms of like fiscal responsibility, we have a number of policies in place, such as that we're instituting moving forward, such as post-event documentation that RSs will be required to give us, for example, like how many people actually attended your event versus how much you expected if you were had to like significantly change the event. And then any sort of fee funding, to clarify that this has already been a policy, any sort of fee funding that's already been requested for, you can't like reallocate it like for other things. So like in this new process, if you're requesting $5,000 for event A and you only use $4,000, we're considering that $5,000 spent, and you can't use that $1,000 for event B. So that $1,000 has to be returned to the SGA. Otherwise, we'll consider that when you're requesting for additional funding towards your $30,000 cap.
Thank you.
Can we go to the ballot language, please? You have to exit the presentation. So this is the current ballot language that we have up that's going to come up during the SGA elections. Again, voting opens 5 p.m. Monday and Thursday, 5 p.m. If you have any questions about the ballot language, I'm going to yield that to President Borowski, as he is the one who wrote this in conjunction with myself, JD, and others.
Are there any questions about the ballot language? The presentation is also in the supplemental materials folder, and the link to this page is on the third last slide, so you guys can take a closer look on your own computers. Yeah, can somebody pass a mic to Rue, please?
Hello. I was just wondering if all like the details from the slide would be included in the like ballot, information, like either as like, like an addition, or is there maybe like an initiative being done to inform people on like additional information on any of the ballot questions?
Yeah, I can fill in a little bit on that. So, because of the way the ballot works, there isn't a way to include like a PDF or a presentation in the question. However, alongside the interim secretary of PR, we have been working on outreach efforts to communicate that, as well as Chair Trong mentioned, we'll be meeting with the 12 agencies tomorrow to discuss outreach. And when voting opens, we will be sending a campus-wide email explaining the nitty-gritty details. And if people have questions, there will be contacts on there for people to ask them. So this is kind of the extent of the information we could put on the question, because this is like literally what you will see when voting. And if it was like pages and pages, we didn't want to overload with that. So we kept it to the basics, but outreach efforts are being done to educate people on the implications beyond what you're seeing on the screen.
Can I follow up? Might I suggest maybe perhaps making like how Massachusetts have their own like little ballot packets with additional information on each of the ballot questions, maybe an initiative from Ways and Means, the executive, and ODC, just because like I was talking to my professor about one of the questions and she suggested that as a format.
Yeah, so that's what we're hoping to achieve with the campus-wide email, because they're like, we don't have CDNC and we can't really afford to print out as many as that. But that is what we're hoping to accomplish with that, as well as materials which will be attached to that, including all the elaboration that anybody could want.
Quick point of clarification. I'm really working on like a small handout that we can give people, agencies, RSOs, about everything on the ballot, which includes this. So yeah, that's ODC for you.
Can we get a mic to the back row, please, over there?
Just a quick question about like if this has to be formatted like this, because I think if it looked more similar to what you showed us on the slideshow, I think it's a lot more easier. It's like a lot easier to comprehend, especially as people who are like just going through like the voting really quick and not really doing like a lot of research on it. I think like how you listed out to us, like spring concert gets this much if you vote for this. Like I think that would like how it's like bullet pointed instead of like a long like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit. So we tried to do simpler language, but because this isn't binding, like this has to go to the Board of Trustees, and then the Board of Trustees approves it from there. There were some dilemmas on whether or not the simplified language could be interpreted in the ways that we needed it to. Like, for example, the ranked choice system we're going for and just the information included on it like that. So this was after consultation with like SACL and the rest of the people involved in this process for the specific wording.
Is it possible to say on the ballot measure, yeah, in this language, can we mention that it's ranked choice?
Yeah, yes. It says on the options like by an additional $44 or the amounts below, an additional $36 or the amount below, or $25, but there's not an amount below that. So
Point of clarification. Something that Chair Chuang brought up to me just like a few days ago, and this is very relevant, about the like mandatory administrative fee that we're paying that's going up by so much. Based on that and other very recent developments, this is like the final language. The last day to put anything onto the ballot was last Wednesday, which was the 25th. And then the hard admin can't touch it anymore deadline was yesterday on Tuesday. So this is the final language. We can't change it anymore unless we want to like delay the election or something, which is not happening. So this is like the final language. It's going to be ranked choice. That's the final structure that Scott Campbell agreed on when everybody sent their ballot referenda and such to him.
Yeah, Senator Nalivo.
If yesterday was like the hard deadline for this to be edited, then why is this even being shown today?
This is being shown just to educate all of the members of this body as we are elected to learn this information and understand and comprehend and most importantly, communicate it to our constituencies. So this isn't going up for a vote. This was put up by myself. This is just to educate everybody on what will be on the ballot so that you can all go back to your constituencies and educate, inform, and assist our outreach partners in getting the word out about what the implications of this would be. So this is just to keep you all educated because as we have seen, the results of this will have very, very big impacts on the SGA of next year and its operations.
Is there a reason why you're prioritizing prioritizing the spring concert over increasing RSO funding further?
I'm gonna hand that over.
Yeah, like I said previously, when asked, like that is a discussion that we can have and that I will be having tomorrow with the agencies. And so depending on how that conversation has, we may or may not decide to fund spring concert. But those are discussions that we are having.
And additionally, if I may add on to that, the 12 agency budgets were ironed down by MOUs and are now in the appeals section. The spring concert was not. So that is subject to change, though at this point, the agency budgets are immovable, barring Ways and Means appeals. So that was the only thing that we fund a substantive amount that we can change that falls outside of RSO amounts and agency budgets.
Yeah, Senator Nollyville.
Just a quick question. So was this ran by any committee, subcommittee?
Yes. So this was briefly brought up, not this ballot language, but the effects of the ballot options were brought up briefly on Monday on Ways and Means. We weren't able to get the most up-to-date numbers, but we gave a general ballpark in terms of that, presenting the ballot numbers to Ways and Means.
Are there any further questions about the ballot language? All right, if not, then we'll move on.
A couple more slides, guys. Don't worry, don't worry. Okay, so this is like I said before, those are the cuts and the options of the ballots. This is a more detailed breakdown of what would be allocating to. So you can see here we have that admin overhead, about 8.75% of the beginning of what we allocate for each of these line items. I just multiplied it by 8.75% of each of what we're allocating for. This is what Saco Finance instructed me to do in terms of when predicting next year's costs associated. And then you may notice there's a separate admin overhead. This is because anytime an RSO uses their revenue account, whether depositing, spending, et cetera, there's a fee associated with that. And so the SGA, we've been covering that fee for RSOs so that RSOs can fully use the amount that they've spent the hard time to fundraise and get those outside grants. And so that's kind of a more detailed breakdown. It's all color coded as well with the ballot options and how allocations would look like. Again, this is a draft, so they are of course subject to change in terms of where we're allocating things. The only thing that's locked down would be DIA fund, which is by law mandated to be funded at $100,000.
Important numbers on the screen. Get off Instagram.
Yeah, and this is some clarification because I know last time there were questions about how often we raise the fee. So that's here. And then is there one more slide? Nope. All right, that's the last slide. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chair Trong. Is there any other business for Committee of the Whole at this time? All right. In that case, the Senate will be in order and the Committee of the Whole previously called into session stands adjourned. The Senate will continue considering the remainder of the agenda. 3 special orders were submitted to the Office of the Speaker. The Senate will now consider S74, a motion to appoint Sofia Butisova to the position of Secretary of Public Relations, sponsored by Chair Dami. Sponsorship is recognized for a brief factual description. Yeah, the thing is that 2 of the special orders were Okay, obviously we passed the first read policy last week, so everything has to be tabled to next week. The chairs voted to override it for 2 of the special orders, but not for 1, so we can block vote the 2 that were overridden, I guess, which would be S74 to appoint Sofia Butasova to the position of Secretary of Public Relations, and then S76, a motion to appoint Joshua Seversky to Chair of the Committee of Undergraduate Services. And then after the reading of S75, the Senate can vote to override first read, and then we would be able to vote on that at that time. But I think for now, we can just block vote those 2. So motion to block vote S74 and S76. Is there a second? All right, all those in favor of block voting the said motion, say aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstain, say abstain. All right, the ayes have it. S74 and S76 will be considered jointly. So I can speak on 76 if you want to go ahead about the misspelling.
Motion to amend S74 to a motion to appoint Sofia Butusova with an O as the 4th letter.
Is that fine with the sponsor?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, just make the change then.
I made this whole mistake last year. No, I did, remember?
Okay, sponsorship, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So Sophia was the previous Undersecretary of PR, and we chose her for this role because she was just so good at her job, and I'm going to yield all further questions to her.
Hi, thank you for having me. Any questions? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Chair Hood, go ahead.
What's your favorite thing about public relations?
That I get to work with all of the committees that we have here to advertise your guys' stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
more-
Chair Kim, go ahead.
In your time as interim so far, how many graphics have you already made for the SGA account? Like just in the past month or so?
Like, I think we have, I think I have 12 posts posted. Not all of them were made by me. I think we have a couple of lovely chairs that made a couple of them for the ICE event and for, I believe we also had, you created one, right? Yeah, Chair Mello as well. So not all of them, but like a lot, probably over 10, 15. It's been 3 weeks though, so.
Senator Walker Hoover.
Yeah, my question is just like, how are you gonna delegate? Because I know it's a tough job. Like, you know, I remember Secretary Hadia, she was, you know, going through it. So is there undersecretaries you're thinking of? Like, you know, how are you gonna manage your well-being while in this difficult role?
Not really. I mean, like it's been going pretty well so far. I wasn't really thinking of getting an undersecretary. If it gets too much, then yeah. Apparently it's not like really in my bylaws to create graphics. I have been doing so. Some people will send in their own. It's just personal preference on whether or not they want me to do something or they want to do it themselves. But no, it's been a pretty great job so far. Yeah.
Vice President Nalivo, go ahead.
Can we please stop turning in graphics with QR codes? It creates an accessibility issue because you can't scan a QR code when it's on the screen.
All right. Well, we'll limit statements to factual questions at this time, please. Senator Tacky.
What are some of your favorite ideas for things you want to do? Just getting the word out more about SGA and what we do, because I know you're very excited about the role.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So I'm on a cultural RSO, and I know that cultural RSOs are incredibly important to our campus community. I have been communicating with them. They have a bunch of group chats. Not every cultural RSO is currently in that, so that's probably like first things first. Like we got to add everyone in there. Of course, reposting like our campus and what everyone is doing, just like student greatness. And then a couple of other initiatives that I was thinking of doing was doing a day in the life. We've done that before a lot with Instagram takeovers. However, I think that it would be really cool if we could do one per committee, honestly. So anyone in different committees who wants to do an Instagram takeover on like Fridays can talk about what they're doing in their committee, as well as answering questions about the SGA. I would love to start that with Ways and Means this Friday to advertise the SATF raise for it to be ready on Monday. Yeah, no, thank you.
Are there any further questions? All right. Well, since we're considering them both on block, I can speak a little bit about S76. We already introduced you guys to Josh, but new chair of USC, of course, the position was vacated last semester. And so I was running the committee interim for a little bit, but it was a little too much for me to manage. So definitely needed someone to fill that spot. Josh has been already running the committee for a good while now. And I think the introductions we've already gone through a couple of times. So this is just officially putting him in the position which we hadn't done yet. But are there any questions? Is there a second for S74 and S76? Does there exist a need for debate on S74 and S76? With no indication of a need for debate, the motions are called. The question is on the passage of S74 and S76. Motions to appoint Sofia Butisova and Joshua Seversky to the positions of Secretary of Public Relations and Chair of the Committee on Undergraduate Services, respectively. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motions are passed. Congratulations. Will the newly appointed secretary please stay up here for a second? As I administer the oath. Please repeat after me. I do affirm.
I do affirm.
To faithfully execute the office of Executive Cabinet Member.
To faithfully execute the office of Executive Cabinet Member.
And support the Constitution and bylaws.
And support the Constitution and bylaws.
Of the Student Government Association.
Of the Student Government Association.
Congratulations.
Yay!
All right, Josh, you next. Please repeat after me. I do affirm.
I do affirm.
To faithfully execute the office of SGA Committee Chair.
To faithfully execute the office of SGA Committee Chair.
And support the Constitution and general bylaws.
And support the Constitution and general bylaws.
Of the Student Government Association.
Student Government Association.
Congratulations. All right, thank you. Moving on to S75. As I mentioned, the chair is elected not to override first read on this motion. However, we will still go through the reading. We'll have the candidate come up and we'll go through the questioning period, at which point, if the Senate feels inclined, you may all vote to override the first read policy, with just a motion to override the first read policy, and then we will proceed to the vote. Yeah, sure.
I just want to give a little clarification as to why the chairs didn't override it for this one, which was just that we hadn't received the hiring materials for Rachel Marina yet. We did afterwards receive her resume, which is now in supplemental materials. So that's why the chairs didn't override that for her, but did it for the other two. So thanks.
Yeah, so I'll invite the sponsorship again to speak.
All right. Okay, so we got another one. The hiring process for the Secretary of the Registry was a little different than normal, so I'll just touch on that, then I'll yield any personal questions to Ms. Marina. We did a flash hiring for this role because, as any of you that have interacted with the Secretary of the Registry know, it is a very intensive role. You have to help get all your RSOs into the supply lockers, closets, audit it. You're basically the middleman between the SGA and just about every club on campus on anything not relating to finances. So it's a pretty important job. We put out an interest form, and then from the interest form, we had a couple interviews from there. I noticed Miss Marina's application, was very thoroughly impressed by it. I had also noticed her leadership experience before in the marching band, where she serves as a drum major. And after that, we had a sit-down chat where I went over the priorities of the role, the expectations of it, her general understanding of it, and what would be expected of her in this role. And then after that conversation, I was very, very pleased with the answers to which, and I now submit her for your review today. And I will yield all further questions to Ms. Marina.
Yeah, Senator Lamore.
Okay. Is this on? It's on? I just can't hear it? Okay. That means probably good. Anyways, I'm reading over your resume like right now. I'd like to know how your work experience is, in your opinion, applicable to the experience and tasks of Secretary of the Registry. I only ask out of concern as a UROC member, as our last secretary kind of bailed. So please do elaborate.
Thanks for the question. My work experience has involved jobs that require me to be very organized. A lot of time and dedication I've put into them, and I've always been very dedicated to what I do. So I think that my soft skills that I've developed in my work teaching swimming lessons, and as well as particularly working in a lab environment, will lend itself to this role.
Chair Trong, go ahead. Maddie, can you pass?
This is just a question for President Borowski. I was curious more about the hiring process. I believe you mentioned briefly before Senate there was 39 applicants you mentioned.
I'm going to say ballpark 39.
Yeah. And so I guess I was wondering if you could clarify what particularly within her interview or resume stood out to you when you're selecting, and if you could just clarify because I believe you guys are both in marching band, if there's any personal relationship in terms of if you know each other or et cetera.
Okay, yeah, so that's actually a wonderful question. Thank you. And out of the applicants, what drew me most to Rachel was what she put down on her application. Well, one, in her resume, her experience in leadership roles, I think is something very important, especially in an executive cabinet position, which demands being a leader in your field. Additionally, I had seen Miss Marina before we even knew each other as a leader figure in the band. And in that position, she demonstrated a lot of accountability and responsibility, which is something we desperately need in this role, as RSOs inherently rely on this person checking their email, getting them to their supply lockers, auditing the supply lockers. And I think a lot of that kind of is a little bit separated from a lot of the day-to-day policy work we do in here, but it is nonetheless extremely important. And although I did know Miss Marina before choosing to appoint her interim, that was in multiple different ways. And actually, it was through that experience that I saw living proof of her responsibility and accountability, which is what drew me to her as the pick.
Chair Mello, go ahead.
Hi, I was curious if you have any experience with interacting with RSOs, or how you feel like you're preparing to do so.
So I don't have too much experience interacting with RSOs, but I'm preparing to do so by reading through the bylaws, talking a lot with Michael and people who are more involved than me, and I'm very comfortable asking questions to educate myself about how things work, particularly.
Yeah, Chair Hood, go ahead.
Yeah, so first I just want to say mainly what you need in this position is just dedication and what you've already said. So good to hear. My question is just, there may be a lot of frustration coming from RSOs on their past experiences with the SGA, particularly with the registry team. I was wondering if you had like a plan or some sort of idea how you might manage that frustration, how you might build back relationships with RSOs, anything on that sort of topic.
To my understanding, there's been a lot of frustration with the locker situation and getting into that and getting that situated. And coming in, I haven't had a chance to fully look through everything yet, but I'm confident that I can come up with a solution to make it a more seamless process going forwards. I think I'm a pretty compassionate person, and I'm going to try to be understanding with people who have had unpleasant experiences and assure them that it's going to be different going forwards. And I know that that will take a lot of time to fully understand what's going on and make some changes. I'm willing to do so.
Senator Wu, go ahead.
Can I hello? Can I motion? Oh, this is not very loud. After the questioning period, can I motion to override the first read policy and move to vote on S75 motion to appoint Rachel Morena to the position of Secretary of Registry?
Yeah, once we're done with questions, yes. Yeah, Chair Kim.
I'm really happy to hear that you're already like looking to help RSOs out with the locker process in the student union building and also in Bartlett Hall, which is something that the SGA administers and stewards. Are you prepared? Would you say that you're like prepared to organize like a hundreds like of lines long spreadsheet with all the RSO locker and information? And can I confidently vote in you to say that like this person won't give RSO locker codes away without like verifying that the RSO that they're trying to get into the storage of is actually that RSO?
I'm very confident in doing that.
All right, perfect.
Senator Lamore, go ahead.
Hi, so I looked you up on LinkedIn. I saw that you were a sister in Tau Beta Sigma, which is, this is relevant. This is in the same fraternity as Michael. And I'm a bit I would like clarity on the relationship because the way Mike described it, it made it sound like he didn't know you before you applied. And I just want clarity on that
That's
relationship.
not true. And actually, when I was asked about personal relationships, I did say that I knew Miss Marina beforehand.
Yeah, I believe, hold on a sec. I believe President Borowski did clarify that he previously knew the candidate, so I don't believe there's an issue there. Vice President Nalivo, go ahead.
It's the same thing I was upset. I believe that the senators in this room who applied for the position, including Senator Lamore, need to recuse themselves from this discussion.
I don't think we should be bringing other applicants into this or even mentioning who they are. I think every
That's a
senator,
conflict
it's
of
fine.
interest.
It's fine. They're all allowed to ask questions. Anyone can ask a question. It doesn't matter.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the speaker. Thank you.
Anyone, yeah, any senator can ask a question. It's fine. Are there any further questions?
Point of
Yes, point of.
Okay, point of clarification.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to bring up like completely, I want to dare I say irrelevant information from outside, like going on LinkedIn and being like, oh, these people are in the same fraternity? Because it, in my personal opinion, it looks like she's looking for a reason to not.
As long as there is a question of a factual nature, I will allow it.
Okay. Is this allowed to
Yes,
bring
I, as long as the question is of a factual nature, which can be answered by the sponsorship, I will allow it. Chair Mello, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to the topic at hand real quick. Is there any other materials, or could you explain a little bit more about the hiring process you took with the applicants in this situation?
Yes. So we did a flash hiring process, which kind of went around the usual like mountain of paperwork that applicants would have to do, because again, kind of have to expedite this because RSOs have to get in their supply locker. And I have been doing the responsibilities, most of the responsibilities of the Secretary of the Registry in the interim. So it was of great importance that we filled this in a timely manner. So what that entailed was a brief Google form with the questions of, I honestly don't remember them off the top of my head, but it was just express your interest in this role, give a resume, and times you would be available for a call. So Rachel was one of the people who filled that out. And upon having her availability, I scheduled a meeting with her where we both sat down and discussed the responsibilities of the role, what would be expected of her, and her willingness to complete the responsibilities of this role. And after that interview, I wouldn't call it that, I was satisfied with her answers enough to appoint her as the Secretary of the Registry. Does that? Wonderful.
Senator Walker Hoover, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question on like who was on the selection committee. Was it just yourself? Were there other people? What did that process look like from just a selection committee or hiring committee perspective?
Yeah, so just like any other secretary in the executive cabinet, it is solely down to me and Gianna. That's true for the cabinet. That's true for when we hired them last year. That's true for when we filled any vacancy at this point. It really just does come down to me and her because the executive cabinet is meant to be direct extensions of me and Gianna's policy platform and administration's goals. And that is why we have such lovely, talented people in the cabinet to accomplish those goals. Does that help?
And yeah, that helps a lot. And then just a follow-up, because you did say it was like almost 40 applicants. What was like the final pool? Was it like 10? Was it 5? What did that look like?
It came down to around 5, but we had some scheduling conflicts with the rest where it kind of just, it fell through. And eventually Rachel was the one who made it through. And at that point, because I was so impressed and welcoming of her goals and ambitions and her willingness to complete the responsibilities of this role, I didn't see the need for a second round when I was already very comfortable with the first.
Final question, I promise.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you just give me a number about like the ones that didn't, because you say 5 were the finalists. You said a couple didn't fall through.
Is that?
Finish the question, Senator Walker.
I just want to know how many you actually interviewed.
It ended up just being Rachel because like she was the first one to be interviewed. And by the time we got to that point, it was like, do we schedule interviews with people who we know most likely will not be getting the position based on the materials that they have already submitted, which is a very similar situation to what we encountered last week with the Secretary of Finance, where the decision was made, which is perfectly bylaw compliant, to not offer interviews to people that you know you're not going to hire, because considering that these are jobs, it seems very unfair to these people.
Yeah, Chair Kim.
Okay, point of clarification, as the guy who's done like over 200 interviews for SGA at this point, the only thing that matters right now when the Senate is confirming is that the candidate selected by the Senate's will and the will of every single senator is like able to take office. It doesn't matter if 300 other people applied and they were all super qualified. As long as this person in front of us is qualified, then we are to vote yes.
Yeah,
Got a point of clarification.
Chair Mello, you had something? Yeah. Pass the mic over.
Yeah, I was just curious. So I know obviously we can override the first read policy in Senate. I was curious if you were to get that extra week, if you'd be able to potentially go to the UROC meeting. I think it's 5:30 on Tuesdays, and you could just like talk to the committee a little bit. It might be helpful just to.
I would be uncomfortable asking Rachel to complete any labor that she won't be compensated for, just as I think people deserve to be paid for the work that they do.
I believe you can get back pay, correct? Or
But
is that?
I mean, if it hinges on that UROC meeting,
I
that
was
the
just
implication
asking
is that
Okay, I was just
if she wouldn't
asking-
be approved, then she wouldn't be compensated for
Okay.
that time.
Then what is the need for it to pass this week?
Because she is already completing work, and as of tomorrow, will start doing work as the Secretary of the Registry. And considering the pay cycles that all SGA members on payroll are subject to, I would like her to get compensated for the work that she will be doing in this organization as soon as possible.
Senator Walker Hoover.
Point of clarification. From what I understand, the last secretary, something crazy happened or whatever, but it's a difficult job. And so it makes sense to interview more than one candidate because it's a difficult job. And it's not just, like a regular senator job where, I'm not saying a regular senator job isn't hard, but it's just the nature of the job. That's why multiple candidates would have been preferred.
Yes, I'm actually going to hand this right over to Vice President Nalibo.
The difference between executive cabinet and senators is that senators are elected officials or interviewed into this body. Executive cabinet is to the direct will of the president, and it says in our bylaws that it is up to the president to appoint those members of the cabinet. It does not outline an interview structure or an amount of candidates that we need to even take applications for. It doesn't even outline that we need to take applications. It says that the president will appoint his cabinet or her cabinet. I'm woke.
Points.
Okay, so because we are high key, I know this has kind of been a very long meeting. I'm going to ask for, any more questions that pertain to Miss Marina and her ability to complete this job, because that is really what the subject of conversation is here.
Are there further questions of a factual nature, please? All right.
I would say pertaining to the motion.
About the motion, yes. Just go ahead and ask. Like, worst case, I'll tell you you're out of order. Just ask.
Hello. Am I able to like PR request, or I don't know what it's called, like for the like Google form or like application, like just looking at like the general responsibility?
I'm going to hand it over to Attorney General Mullins.
Okay.
Yes, if you have a public records request, talk to myself, talk to JD, talk to the speaker, talk to whoever is relevant in that department, talk to Cody. Sorry, my bad. Sorry, Cody. But yes, that is something to be discussed, I think, one-on-one.
Also, I would like to remind this chamber that the other applicants are not up for approval. It is just Rachel. So if you have any questions for Rachel, I would encourage them.
There are no further questions. The chair will entertain a motion to override the first read policy.
Motion to override the first read policy.
Is there a second? All right. All those in favor of overriding first read to consider the motion tonight, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstain, say abstain. All right, the ayes have it, and first read is overridden. Is there a second for S75? Second. Does there exist a need for debate on S75? With no indication of a need for debate, the motion is called, and the question is on the passage of S75, a motion to appoint Rachel Marina to the position of Secretary of the Registry. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Those abstaining, say abstain. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion is passed. Congratulations. One second. Same oath. Please repeat after me. I do affirm to faithfully execute the office of Executive Cabinet Member and support the Constitution and bylaws of the Student Government Association. Congratulations. That concludes special orders for this meeting. We will now move on to new business. One main motion was submitted to the office of the speaker. It is S77, a motion to amend Title VI of the SGA general bylaws sponsored by Chair Trong. The chair will now read the motion, not in its entirety, but just the amended parts. I will also clarify this does fall under the first read policy, and the chairs did not vote to override it. So we will just be going through the factual description, taking questions, and then it will be tabled to next week. That said, S77, a motion to amend Title VI of the SGA general bylaws. Whereas Title VI of the general bylaws outlines the authority and process for financial matters, and whereas the current financial process is not sustainable for students, RSOs, agencies, the SGA, and the Ways and Means Committee, and whereas immediate Title VI reforms are required for clarity and best fiscal practices, and whereas these Title VI reforms shall lay a better foundation for future financial reform, be it therefore enacted by the University Undergraduate Senate of the Student Government Association, effective immediately, the following changes to Title VI. So if you could just scroll down to the first red section, which I think is just a grammatical change. Yeah, that which, just grammar stuff. I think the next thing is also that. After that, just renaming the RSO fund to the ad hoc fund. The RSO supplemental fund was struck. Actually, yeah, you wanna go over this stuff here. I'll let you take it away, Darren.
So the reason is that our supplemental fund is being struck is originally we were planning on having like that $15,000 cap, and then like whatever is over would be allocated for the supplemental fund. However, just due to the logistics of like trying to predict how many RSOs are going to request over, we just decided to merge the supplemental and the ad hoc, and that's why we have that new cap of the $30,000 request and then the alternative funding requirements. All right, Chapter 11, this is a new section here. Basically, this is saying any vacant position in the SGA, excluding conduct advisors because they require specialized training, undersecretaries and senators on Ways and Means because their senators are elected positions, so you can't really like have an application to become a senator for specifically Ways and Means, so that's why that's there. They must have either an interim appointed or they have to have an application posted to the general public within 7 business days of the vacancy occurring, in addition to the following. And this is basically just saying that if you were appointed as an interim, for example, this Tuesday, you could remain in your interim until like 2 weeks on this following Senate meeting for that corresponding week. That's just to give time for the either the legislative office of the speaker or on the executive side, the office of the president, time to review that interim to see if they're comfortable with moving them towards that finalization process through AA and through the Senate. And then the subsection A is just saying that the appointee may hold another position within the SGA, which is similar for like other positions. Yeah. Okay. And then this is a new section here. So similar to how like for report outs, every single person in leadership is required to submit your weekly Senate report out for transparency and public records, etc. This is basically requiring anyone on payroll, with the exceptions mentioned above, will be required to submit a mandatory accountability payroll log, and they have to be approved by the Office of the Speaker for chairs and then Office of the President for the respective secretaries before they are allowed to collect pay. And then this outlines what has to be included like within the form. Section 6 and 7 mentions how the forms are stored and publicized. So they would just be attached under like the Senate report out. So it's very accessible for the public to view. I will also note that can this be tabled back to the committee instead of Senate? Or yeah, this will probably be tabled back to the committee for some additional amendments that AA, myself, and Attorney General Mullins will be making for next week. But this is most of what is being presented today will be the same as what is presented for next week. Okay. And then Section 7, basically, if the accountability log is not filled out 3 times, just like for your Senate report outs, you're resigned by automatically by non-inaction. Resigned by inaction, sorry. And the Office of the President and Speaker has discretion for those like extenuating circumstances to waive that mandatory accountability log. Yeah. And then there's also defines like what counts as like an incomplete log. And so like if you didn't fill out the required information or like, for example, I'm the chair of Ways and Means. If I'm logging pay towards like sidewalk accessibility, which is great, but that's not related to my position as chair of the Ways and Means Committee. And so that would be an example of something that's like invalid for logging towards my pay.
By the way, if you're looking through it and you see text that's struck through in black, those were amendments that were made prior that were already passed through Senate. Chair Chong just wanted those included to provide clarification and context about the amendments that are in red, which is what the Senate is currently considering and is not in the bylaws as of now.
Section 3, this at least part is actually really, really important because agencies are so different in how they support students. Having this at least makes it so that we can have more. Can you scroll down a little bit? So we have the 3. Yeah, right there. Yeah. So we can have more than the 3 criterias right here. So right now the 3 criterias are payroll for undergraduate and mandatory payroll. You have your licensing equipment, professional development, and office supplies, and then you have event funding. And so this at least makes it so there's more flexibility for those agencies again, because there's no one size fits all for the agencies because they are so different. So for like Source versus like UMass, EMS, they're going to be completely different in their needs and how they support students. And then chapter 14 here, little ahead of the Title VII stuff, but I'm just getting ahead of the jump and adding that RSGs, when they're established, will be able to request through the funding processes. And so that's what this section is saying. Yeah. Okay. And then this section here, section 3, basically what I did is I took all of our appeals processes and I put them all under the RSO section. So it's more, if you think of it, it's like a unified appeal process. So any sort of funding process, like through Ways and Means, through Finance Subcommittee, through the DIA Fund Committee, all of those like appeal processes will all be like the same. So it's easier for us in the SGA. It's easier also for the public as well. And there's so all the provisions will be like standard across the board for all of our financial policies. Yep. And then the reason that this is struck is because that's put into the unified appealed part of the amendment. And so that's why that's being struck. Same reason for section 15. Yeah. And then there's the only amendment for the DIA fund part of Title VI is we're just striking the chapter and section because since we're moving stuff around in Title VI, we want to make sure that we're not accidentally like incorrectly citing something in Title VI. So. And then here, compliant with language throughout the bylaws, we changed it in fall to say S1 instead of SJS1. And that's everything.
Are there any questions for the sponsorship about any of the amendments that we went over? All clear. All right. Well, in accordance with the first read policy, this bylaw amendment will be tabled back, I believe, to the Ways and Means Committee for further amendment and review, and it will be placed on the agenda for next week. And that concludes the business for this week's Senate meeting. Technically not a long meeting because we started late. Just want to put that out there. That was fine. No, we were fine. We're fine. Okay. On to officer reports. The University Student Trustee Marino is recognized. Present? No? Okay. President Borowski is recognized.
What's up, guys? My report out is in the packet. So the only actual call to action I have is that me and Gianna had a meeting with Garrett DiStefano, who's the director of UMass Dining Services, to discuss this new U-card policy, where we were assured that nobody was being turned away for a matching U-card on account of their identity. However, since then, we have actually heard multiple people say that that is not the truth. So if you or anyone you know has had this happen to them and has had to haggle, barter, or otherwise fight to get into the dining halls, please talk to us immediately so we can forward that, because it seems like there is an issue happening in middle communication, and our job as student representatives is to bring those issues to administration. So again, if that's happened to you, just talk to us. Thank you, and I hope you have a great night.
Any questions?
Jeez.
All right. Motion to recognize a non-member of the Senate has been called and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstain say abstain. All right. Go ahead.
Raheem, for the record, Raheem Ian. In regards to like people experiencing these incidents, is there somewhere that like us students can fill out a form or something in order to do that, or do we have to talk with the Senate body to do that?
So as of current, there is not, because it has been told that there is not the need for it. However, what we're seeing is that it seems like there actually is the need for it. So as of right now, just email us, SGA President, SGA Vice President. And if there are really enough people, then I think that then that is grounds to make a Google form, which we would be happy to come back to Senate and share with you all, should this be a much bigger problem than UMass Dining clearly anticipates.
Any further questions? Sorry. All right. Thanks, Mike. Vice President Nalivo. All right. My report out's in the packet. I just want to apologize about the organization of the trustee debate. It was very, very rushed. I dropped the ball on that. That's my bad. So I'd like to apologize, especially to our two candidates, for any confusion that was caused with the last minute organization of that. That was my fault. So yeah. Associate Speaker.
Yeah, my report's in the packet. I just want to clarify that if we're like at the end of a long meeting and we're like rushing through reports, if you attended like a faculty senate or an SAB, you're still encouraged to give that report. It's important for the Senate to know what's going on. So like when we're rushing through reports, we're not rushing through those reports. Please, if you attended, please come up, please speak. It's very important and it is valued. So thanks.
Chief Justice? I think so. RHA President? No. Are there any RSO Council or agency representatives? No. Okay. Executive Cabinet. Does any Executive Cabinet member wish to make a verbal report this time? Any? All right. In that case, we can move on. At this time, I'll recognize Faculty Senate or SAB representatives. Senator Walker Hoover, you're recognized.
So yeah, just gonna make this brief, y'all. Myself and Secretary of Diversity attended the March Faculty Senate Diversity meeting. It included Matthew Boyce, who is the new Vice Provost of Enrollment Management, Admissions, and Financial Aid. As a new leader in the role, he provided insight into enrollment strategy, financial aid outreach, transfer student pathways, development pipelines. He's working on some type of program called Project Greenlight, which is, team focused on first year access, first time team. So, for first year students. Key themes and reflections were pipelines and access. How do we navigate this new world post affirmative action? What are we doing to develop pipelines in gateway cities like Springfield, Holyoke, Brockton, Lowell, Boston, Chicopee, and other low-income Massachusetts communities? What does access look like, with an emphasis and greater transparency on, targeted outreach, school partnerships, community engagement, measurable impact? The definition of unrepresented, like what does that mean in context? Is it race? Is it income, first generation status, geographic location, academic discipline, et cetera? And then from a student equity perspective, underrepresented should meaningfully include students from low-income communities, students from high dropout rate districts, students from historically marginalized racial groups, students from structurally disadvantaged school systems. So clear institutional definitions are necessary for accountability. And then, financial aid, education, and outreach, making sure that we're retaining first-year students, because students come here first year and they might transfer after their first year for whatever, financial reason. Data and transparency. So IPEDS is like their national demographic to tell, what type of percentage of Black undergraduate students do we have? What percentage of Latino undergrads, first generation students, et cetera. That was pretty much it. How do we leverage our rich, 30 plus cultural RSOs, strong Black student union presence, Afro-American Studies Department, Latinx, Latino Studies programs, the international significance of the W.E.B. Du Bois Center and the archives of W.E.B. Du Bois to make sure that we are retaining a Black and Latino population in our students that are coming to UMass. So I'll take some questions.
Yeah, Senator Wu.
So in the beginning of the, I think, academic year, the Secretary of University Policy mentioned that some number of, I think, like Black undergraduate students were going to college and then like dropping out. Was there any information on any programs or any initiatives focused on making sure that we retain our Black undergraduate students?
Yes, so Student Bridges, using Student Bridges as a strategic partner. Many of you may or may not know about Student Bridges, but they are a program, an agency of UMass that is specifically there to support students from Black, brown, and low-income unrepresented communities. So making sure that we're using them. They do culturally centered college tours. They have a tour coming up in April called I'm So College. It's open to pretty much everybody to come out and see these high school students that are coming here And so just those types of organizations, making sure that they have support from an institutional standpoint, and just from student standpoint, making sure that students are aware that these programs exist. That's a great question.
Are there any further questions? All right, thank you. Are there any more Faculty Senate or SAB representatives? Chair Kim, go ahead.
All right, hey everyone. So yesterday on Zoom and on Zoom, I attended the Student Affairs and University Living Faculty Senate Council with Chair Seversky attending in person. I'll let you cover this one.
Okay. So we talked about a lot of things, mostly like protesting codes. I don't know what the proper term for it, but
Ticketing code and student code of conduct.
And we talked about kind of the tensions that are definitely present between student protester groups on campus and administration. A lot of student protesters feel that their First Amendment rights are being hindered. Yeah. Infringed upon. Yeah. But we talked about the dean of students.
I think it was DOSO.
Yeah. So she kind of mentioned how it might be useful to have the policies and codes of conducts and refined to clear up what crosses the line at a protest that warrants punishment or consequences. So to maybe clear that up. And so clearing these up may help instances where students feel their rights are being violated. Right?
Yeah.
Anything else?
That was most of the meeting. I believe the administrative president was Patricia Cardoso Arase, who is the Associate Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students from the Dean of Students. Yeah, okay. Owen's looking at affirmatively. Yeah, most of the meeting was just talking about student perspectives from the DRST, or on the DRST from the Student Government Association, not us, and then someone coming in from the graduate student government. One other thing, there are 3 other reps on this group. Me and Chair Seversky have been on there since the fall. I know one of them is not serving anymore, but just double check if you were on here or ever assigned to be this, because as Gianna outlined last week when we were going over SABs, this is really important. Talking about DRST and how student protesters feel is one really important thing, but also even if you're bent out of shape about e-mobility devices, or if you're Will and you like having them on campus, this is the perfect spot for you. So we'd love to have you join us. The SGA has 5 spots total, so I believe there are 3 more if you're interested in this type of stuff. Just let me know, let Haley know, let Gianna know, let anybody know, because we want people showing up to these meetings every month, and they're really chill. They like hearing from us.
Yeah, if anyone needs clarification about their SAB assignments, you can ask Vice President Olivo or Chief of Staff Martin. Also, could you just clarify what DRST is?
Yeah, DRST is a demonstration response safety team. I believe they're under the Dean of Students Office, or DOSO, as I think I've abbreviated one too many times. They are, sent out to make sure that, their goal is to make sure that there are no First Amendment violations during student demonstrations or other demonstrations on campus, inside and outside of academic buildings. Yeah, that's their goal, to make sure First Amendment violations do not occur on campus.
Are there any questions? Yeah, Senator Volodka. Yeah, okay. We'll recognize him for the whole meeting. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. So I have a question. So a lot of RSOs who are active in protesting on campus have had dealings with administration about specific things in the Student Code of Conduct, specifically the creating a disturbance under 4.1.4.
I'd like to give this one to Attorney General Mullins.
Yes. So first of all, if you have a question about the Code of Student Conduct, please come to the Conduct Advising Program. We can tell you all sorts of fun things, help you through the process. If you get charges or if you just want to know something, we're happy to help out. Also, I am personally on the DRST Advisory Board. So if you want to talk about that, please let me know. I'm more than happy to talk to you. But again, whole Senate probably doesn't need to be sitting around for it. But I'm happy to meet with you one-on-one. Come up to me after.
Yeah, he's here, like, conduct advisor here 9 to 5 every weekday. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Did that sufficiently answer your question? Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Chair Mello, you're recognized.
So I had Academic Matters Council today. It's every other week. One of the biggest changes that happened was nursing program was completely overhauled. It's a whole new system now that doesn't affect current students, but will affect students who are coming here for the fall and for all future years. There's a bunch of other changes as well. Courses, I'm happy to go into depth with anyone who's interested. Just so you know, also some other things that came up in the meeting are some major issues that I've brought up in the past and today about students in SGA who have told me about experiences they've had that are against university rules with specific faculty who are like providing them, are forcing them to go to classes outside of regular scheduled meetings, doing other stuff that's violating like the rules for what classes are supposed to have. So if there are issues like that, if your attendance policy seems unfair, if anything's going on, please reach out. Like I'm happy to help you resolve those issues. And then advising also came up. There are a bunch of people who are looking to change the way that advising works, something that's a priority of AO for the semester and apparently also of faculty and AMC. So I might be reaching out to you about your specific programs. If you don't have any interest in talking to me, no worries, but the whole purpose is to improve advising in general. So thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, Senator Tacky.
Yeah, so nursing basically in the past couple of years, especially like the past year, basically the nursing program here, the way it works is it's accredited through the federal government, the state government, and the University of Massachusetts system, and through specifically UMass Amherst. A major change that they're doing is following the ecology of health model, which is just a different way of approaching how you learn like nursing. So it's rearranging some courses, trying to make the progress of courses and the progression of them more meaningful to your experience as a student in the program. It's also changing the way that like you interact with some professors. So like there's gonna be more clinicals. So like I think an additional clinicals that you interact more at an earlier stage with someone who is directly currently in the nursing in the field of health, because a lot of professors they used to be nurses or they're in the program, but they don't have like current experience. They haven't for like decades. And so if you're trying to understand if you want to be a nurse like early on, that could be like a major concern. Also, overall, the credits have decreased though, and they will be going to the Academic Programs and Budget Council soon to discuss extra resources that might be needed for them and for students as they transition in the process. Obviously, clinicals come with other extra costs for students, so not a fan of that, but it is only one extra, and it is also changing the way that they. I think that one's a little bit specific. So overall, yeah, I will. I can show you everything. I did also meet with multiple nursing students and a nursing RSO to discuss the changes and make sure that everything seemed fair and like just seems to make sense to them as well, because it's not my area of expertise. But yeah, thanks. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Senator Wu.
I was wondering if this Senate is for like all advising, right? Every department from like, or is it just specifically talking about nursing right
Oh
now?
no, sorry. Every single department is the way they do advising is very, very different. It's something that I would like to streamline a little bit more and make sure it works for students. If you had experiences with advisors giving you incorrect information, for example, there's no process really for dealing with that. And how do you rectify your course schedule once it's already decided? So, there's major issues with advising, the way that different information is spread. It's like no one specifically, like no individual's fault, but it is an issue that I'd like to try to fix as much as possible.
Yeah, so if I have like a friend who had like a really bad experience with advising, can I forward her story, her information? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
just always like I don't know. Some people here message me a lot. Some people I've never hear from. But if you have an issue, if you have any friends who've had issues, please let me know. I also in the bottom of my email, I have a like link tree that includes a form so that if you ever experience an academic issue or know someone who has, it's an anonymous form you can submit. Just And also I do work with people, send them to like the ombuds office or other places on campus they can get support that's like anonymous, supportive, make sure that they understand their rights as a student. And so, if anything ever comes up, please reach out. But yeah, hope that answers the question. Okay.
Any further questions? All right, thank you. Are there any more Faculty Senate or SAB reports? Yes, Senator Siegel, you're recognized.
Yeah, hi everybody. I just want to I just sort of want to expand upon the meeting that Morgan and Josh talked about very briefly. So I was invited by the chair of that meeting, not as a student, but as I was invited by the chair of that of Saul, Toussaint Lucier, or one of the co-chairs of Saul, to along with a representative of from the grad student senate. As to represent sort of because we were both myself and Eric Ross, the other person who went to that meeting, were sort of people who both act as sort of bridges between student politics and student activism. And so I just kind of want to very, very, very briefly lay out sort of what I said in that meeting and sort of the case that I made, just so that it's clear how I'm representing everybody. So the sort of representing the concerns of student activists. So when it comes to the DRST and the DRST's role in protests, often how they are seen is not as what their stated goal is to protect First Amendment rights, but rather as sort of as taking on a policing role in restricting political expression. I also made the case that since the May 7th, 2024 protest and the response to that, and the code of conduct charges leveled at Kiv de Montebello, among other things, a lot of the actions of administration have undermined the trust of that section of the student body in administration and made relations even more tense. And that also the sort of ignorance and like sort of what is perceived to be sort of a cavalier attitude towards SGA resolutions and protests around divestment, other issues, etc., has resulted in a sense among student activists that the sort of formal avenues of change are useless. There is no, that it is impossible to make change that way, and that leads to escalating tension, escalating protest, that leads to rules, etc., getting ignored, that leads to the sort of tensions that the DRST seems to be really worried about. What that results is that like so the result being sort of when sort of rules around protest, etc., political expression are too strict, that results in them getting ignored. And so what I sort of argued for was in sort of these rules, in this sort of suite of documents that governs things relating to student protest, whether it be the land use policy, the DRST guidelines, the student code of conduct, the picketing code, etc. Within that sort of suite of things, there needs to be included a set of affirmative rights of protest and examples of affirmatively protected protest, so that there is these clear avenues of protest, and the DRSC no longer feels, so that we can sort of get rid of this tension on some level, and that there needs to be a real effort by administration to restore trust in the aftermath of May 7th, Kib's code of conduct charges, etc. And that finally there needs to be a stronger student involvement in crafting those policies on both sides. There needs to be, I think Morgan made this point in the meeting, that I think that those of us in the student government need to take a much more active role in sort of considering that suite of policies when our input is requested, as well as on the admin side. I think that more of that input, more of that approval needs to be sort of codified, encouraged, etc. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any more Faculty Senate or SAB representatives? No? All right, then we'll move on. Any ESO event representatives? All right. Does any committee chair wish to make a verbal report? Chair Trong, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple things. If you guys are interested, and I know someone people were mentioning like public records requesting, just shoot Cody an email, and then I will fulfill any public records requests for any sort of like allocations or public records that you guys have questions about. Another thing I want to plug real quickly, if you're interested in any sort of financial policy reform, outreach, etc., please reach out to myself and CC Rue, the select subcommittee chair. And then if you're interested in admin finance transparency, where does our money go for UMass? Please reach out. That is something that I'm also working on as well. And last thing I want to say is this is more of a formal request, but in compliance with Article 5, subsection M of the Constitution, along with Title 3, Chapter 1, 10, and 11. I'm formally requesting that anyone who's missed their report out for this Senate meeting or last Senate meeting provide a verbal or written report out at the next Senate meeting, including legislative and executive.
Thank you. Chair Kim, you're recognized.
One, everyone in the legislative got their reports in this meeting, so congrats to us because we're awesome. Two, hey, Attorney General Mullins, you mentioned something at the beginning about like DOSO cracking down on blinding this year, right? Cracking down.
Certain weekend.
Sorry,
certain
this,
weekend.
sorry,
Yes.
cracking down this weekend for some reason, right?
Yes.
Huh. Where can I like go to find more information? Is there like an email that got sent out that I can like tell people or point people to?
Well, funnily enough, actually, during this exact meeting, an email went out giving very valuable information on what you can do.
At like 7:13 p.m., an email titled "Upcoming Weekend" got sent out to all UMass undergraduate students, all 24,016 of them.
Yes, crazy, right?
It has info about the conduct advising office.
Everyone, please read it.
That's crazy. I wonder if there's, I don't know. You guys get the point. If you guys have any questions this weekend or in the future about the conduct advising office, if anyone is given a code of conduct proceeding, go to the email. It's again called "Upcoming Weekend," sent out around 7:13 p.m. to all UMass undergrads. If you didn't get it, also tell me because that's like a different issue. But yeah, there is the resource right there to anyone facing any code of conduct proceedings in the next forever, honestly, because
or academic integrity
or academic,
issues.
yeah. So just in case you are looking for resources there, you know exactly where to go. This email.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Chair Kim. Good. It's important to touch up on conduct stuff. That's good advice, like for all the time. Just generally. So yeah. All right. JD, anything? All right. Are there any motions on the floor except a motion to adjourn? All right. In that case, the Associate Speaker will record the ending roll call.
Senator Bauman. Senator Bauman absent.
Quiet, please.
Senator Baker. Senator Baker absent. Senator Belair. Belair present. Senator Breen. Senator Breen present. Senator Calvo. Senator Calvo present. Senator Chamu. Senator Chamu present. Senator Chaparro. Senator Chaparro present. Senator Durkee. Senator Durkee present. Senator Dang. Senator Dang present. Senator Haycock. Senator Haycock present. Senator Hercules Pinal. Hercules Pinal present. Senator Chair Hood. Chair Hood present. Senator Kennedy. Senator Kennedy present. Chair Kim. Chair Kim present. Senator Lamore. Lamore present. Senator Malari. Senator Malari absent. Senator Martos. Senator Martos absent. Senator Meesum. Senator Meesum absent. Chair Mello. Chair Mello present. Senator Morales-Aquino. Senator Morales-Aquino present. Senator Nalibo. Senator Nalibo present. Chair Onyeka. Chair Onyeka absent. Senator Meshwa Patel. Senator Meshwa Patel absent. Senator Rai Patel. Senator Rai Patel absent. Senator Reeb. Senator Reeb present. Senator Rogers. Senator Rogers present. Senator Roy. Senator Roy absent. Senator Schuette. Senator Schuette present. Senator Siegel. Senator Siegel present. Senator Sun. Senator Sun absent. Chair Seversky. Chair Seversky present. Senator Tacky. Senator Tacky present. Senator Tao. Senator Tick. Senator Tick absent. Chair Trong. Chair Trong present. Senator Volotka. Senator Volotka present. Senator Valencia Gago. Senator Senator Valencia-Gago present. Senator Vender Wilson. Senator Vender Wilson present. Senator Verma. Senator Verma present. Senator Walker Hoover. Senator Walker Hoover present. Senator Wu. Senator Wu. Senator Wu present. Senator Golu. Senator Golu present.
Are there any motions on the floor? Is there a second? All right, all those in favor of adjournment say aye. Those opposed say no. Ooh, those abstaining say abstain. All right, the ayes have it and the motion is adjourned. My bad, the meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everyone. Good luck with midterms.